Okay, so I was gonna go live today at the accurate time, 6 on the dot, which is supposed to be our scheduled time, but I usually am late for any number of reasons. Either I'm still reading some articles and I didn't just want to read some headlines and like go off, or I have something else I'm working on. I'm writing my own article, working on a script, and so I decided to take a little bit of time to start today's stream late as usual because I was sent a VOD by my editor, which seemed to show streamer Hasan Piker publicly displaying my address to tens of thousands of live viewers on his stream. And that VOD, of course, was then edited and then put online by fan channels, which people, still went and checked out. Not a lot of people, very, very few people, thankfully, but still people went and watched this live. And immediately upon seeing this, I was just kind of baffled. I was baffled that Hassan, somebody, who's been streaming for quite some time, would not either, look at this off of stream and realize what exactly is on this list of information, including home addresses, which we've blurred out here for obvious reasons. I don't know why. Maybe it's just he clicked the link from chat and it popped up and he didn't think about it and only realized it later. But either way, he did display it. Now, I want to get this right off the bat. I still don't think Hassan actually takes the majority of the blame here, and I'll get into why that is in a second. But I just want to say that, like, when it comes to addresses, public addresses, period, I think the general standard for anybody should be not showing other streamers public addresses. Whether it has become public through doxing, whether it has become public through information requests, whether it's become public or XYZ. It's one thing, even I would even make a concession. Like, I'll make this concession. I'll try to concede as much as possible. I'll make a concession on even showing a streamer's house in under certain circumstances. Say there's like a news story or something like that. You can show somebody's house. And I'm also making this exemption because my house burnt down and people, saw news footage of my home because my house burnt down, and firefighters, we have the thing on the house, and people went and some people watched it and they didn't blur it. On our broadcast, we blurred a lot of obviously stuff that could show exactly where I live, but a lot of people didn't. I gave people kind of, benefit of the doubt because the local TV news station isn't going to, then I can expect other people won't. But when it comes to just the line, like line for line, here's the name of the street, here's the address, here's XYZ. The reason why that bothers me more, even though I'm not in panic control here, I'm not like bunkering down. Again, that's the house that burnt down anyway. Even though we're going to rebuild it, and I'll move back in probably eventually, it's still not cool to have that out, but I'm not in there currently. I'm not in current risk. I don't think anybody is going to immediately use this information to harm me. But when you have the word, the address, the street, all that typed out, that's really easy to copy and paste and like send either stuff to the house or to, now that you have the exact name of it, you can call something in. Swatting becomes easier because if you see a picture of a house, it's a picture of a house. To have the entire street name, everything listed out, that's really easy to swat with. It's really easy to send something in the mail to. It's really easy to do a lot of things that don't just affect me, it affects the other people who are living at this house, which include family members. So as much as I'm willing to give a decent amount of benefit of the doubt when it comes to a lot of instances, whether it means to showing my house, whether it means to showing, the news reports that like physically show my address, even if it shows like the numbers on the side of the house, at the end of the day, just like the full listed out address, I think is a little bit too far for my liking. Now, the only reason that Hassan even has this information, and I'll put this out here because this is why Hassan was reacting to this, is because Progressive Victory, which is a progressive organization I worked with that tried to do some get out the vote stuff for youth. It was like targeted towards getting out the vote with youth and trying to create content that could activate people. But honestly, it's kind of hard to describe Progressive Victory because Progressive Victory's message and their dream of what they were going to be like continued to change. And this is my main problem with Progressive Victory, was just its leadership continued to change, whether from when going from like Brianna Wu to other management again. And with each change in management, the direction of the organization seemed to change from, hey, this is an advisory role, so people can, okay, well, maybe that's not just an advisory role. Maybe it's also, you need to do X, Y, and Z. Well, oh, also, maybe you can interview, these politics. Well, maybe you can do X, Y, and the direction of it changed to the point where at one point Progressive Victory was asking me to revamp Hippy Dippy and like do a whole new Hippy Dippy. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of in Ukraine now. And as I said, when I joined the organization, it's going to be a bother. It's going to be a long, it's going to take a lot of time for me. It was like, no, we're doing X, Y, and Z. I was taken out to dinner and it was like really nice. And they were like, okay, we'll help you in recruiting. We'll help you fund it. We'll help you do X, Y, and Z. And then right when we're like a month or so from launching, the next leadership, as they came in, pulled the rug from under me. And this just shows like Progressive Victory, while I believe in the idea that engaging with political content creators and the content creating economy is necessary for the Democratic Party, is especially necessary for progressives and appealing to young people who obviously want to get in contact with young people. Progressive Victory, when it came to just the haphazard change in management, the haphazard change in direction, and then when it came to haphazard filing, they never informed me about any posting of my address. They posted my address without informing anybody, and then they told everybody and apologized afterwards. Our addresses were never supposed to be posted. Now, a lot of the people ended up who had their addresses posted ended up moving, or they moved elsewhere, or the address they used was an old address, XYZ. And so for a lot of the people, it didn't end up affecting them. I was one of the people where they just, they just used my they just posted my home address. They apologized after, and that was supposed to be that. But again, I think this is another problem with just the just haphazard style of how PV was being managed, how the leadership was changing constantly, and how this was a lot of people kind of learning to do this for the first time, which isn't bad. There's not really a lot of what PV is doing on the either progressive left or the Democratic Party really in general. And they really were picking up in 2024. That's when all the money was coming in from big Democrat donors to these different initiatives. And so, I mean, I saw Progressive Victory kind of going around and kind of looping around in the different directions it was going. And I continue to engage with them. And I did my best not to like blow up and be professional, even after they posted my address, even after they pulled the rug on Hippy Dippy. But I mean, the majority of the blame obviously lies with them. So honestly, I don't like, there's not like a lot of anger in my heart towards Mr. Piker. Okay. I don't really have a lot of anger towards my heart and him towards that specifically, because most of my disdain would be held for the people who originally posted it. But I will say that whether or not he knew what he was doing or didn't know what he was doing, using bad empanada here as the source and showing it in this manner, like, I don't think it was either honest framing of me, and I think he should have also been suspicious immediately when it was bad empanada. I mean, this is somebody who has admitted, like, he lies. He's perfectly comfortable with lying. He'll, like, learn a piece of rumor and, like, speak of it like fact. He is somebody who's extremely just filled to the brim with disdain and how he interacts with other people. He just acts very vile. And this isn't even something that Hassan denies. He's acknowledged this in the past that, Bad Empanada really behaves in a vile manner towards people online. He doesn't really have any like reserved guiding principles holding him back from like, let's have a polite political conversation. He doesn't really care about that. He doesn't really, I don't think he really likes that framing whatsoever. So trusting him as as a source, as somebody to responsibly share this information in the first place, while caring not to dox people when he's perfectly comfortable with doxing too. Pretty wild. But if you read the framing here, I don't know if you guys can actually see the post. Yes, if you look through Progressive Victory's public filings, it's got tons of payoffs to Zionist Destiny orbiters. Among them, Dylan Burns, Hunter Avalon Hutch, and Destiny's own personal chef. I'm a Zionist Destiny orbiter? Okay. Why not Vosh? Why is it a Destiny orbiter? I was on Vosh's stream much more recently. And then you could call me like Horseboy or something, right? Why Destiny? And I'm not even saying that with much vitriol. I'm just saying, like, why particularly? Is it just that if you interact with him or have interacted with him in the past, that's basically it? I think it just mostly has to do with like name association. It's like the same thing when those messages came out on Discord, those Discord messages, like I was demanded to react to them because people were like, you reacted to Hassan talking about Ukraine, you should react to this. Though one thing is DMs leaking and the other is like a internationally important, like internationally important, significant war story that people have disagreements on. But like we talked about that. I mean, that's the last time Destiny's been mentioned on this channel. We tried to reach out to him to get his opinion on what was happening there. Didn't get much in response. Said didn't want to give people ammunition. And when responding to it, he released his own video. People can go check out that if they want to hear that response. But Destiny Orbiter is the way I'd be classified. But Zionist Destiny Orbiter. Zionist? Do I make Zionist content? Have I ever been filmed near the Wailing Wall? Have I ever been anywhere near Israel? Do I talk about, when I do talk about Israel, what am I even usually talking about? I'm almost always criticizing the Netanyahu government or criticizing Israeli action, whether it has to do with starvation or the recent double tap bombing that killed a bunch of journalists.
A curd is a curd.
Thank you for the tenor. I wouldn't blank on Hassan if he was on fire. He's done nothing of, oh man, it has a message went away. Nothing of any good except for those who thirst for chaos. I'd not be surprised if he would work on some generational KGB program. I don't think he's part of some KGB program. I mean, he's done some good. I remember those interviews with the California firefighters were good. He's brought some like pizza to the protesters. There's like good moments you can point out with Hassan. This is just, I don't even know if he realizes what he did here or that he's showing people's home address when he's looking at this. I don't even know if he fully realizes what he's doing. I'm not even saying like Hassan's in any legal liability here. I think if anyone's in legal liability, it would probably be Progressive Victory, not Hassan for showing this. But I mean, I honestly don't know. Are there standards on Twitch for streamers showing other streamers home addresses irrespective of how they got online? I don't really know. I'm not really interested in any way of like doing anything with that or like any type of like legal whatsoever. I'm just interested in like making sure nobody else's home address gets shared around like this. Like I'll be fine. I'm not even at that place most of the year. Most of the year, I'm overseas filming. I'll be fine.
YOLO Swag has donated $100 shekels for Zionist content.
Well, there's the confirmation. There's the check I was waiting for. There's the check I was waiting for. I will say, there are people who do think that I get paid to make political content. Most of it isn't Zionist. So this is the framing that I get paid to make like pro-Ukraine or pro sending aid to Ukraine content. People have made those accusations or do think that. I know Lactoid thinks that. Lactoid thinks I get paid. I wonder if people just like send me DMs in Discord unsolicited, like showing me what people say. I'm not that interested, but I know he thinks I get paid. Other people think I get paid. There's never any like evidence presented. The stuff I've only ever got paid for, it would be like working in American political outfits to like do politics in the United States. I wouldn't take money to cover a war or do anything like that differently or have any, or I think I'd take money from like a grant to make a film, but anything that would affect coverage? No, of course not. Hassan fan, I wouldn't care if you took money from Ukraine. They are being invaded. I would if you did from Israel. I view taking money from Israel like taking money from Russia. Well, no, I wouldn't. No. I'll push back on that. I shouldn't take money from Ukraine. I shouldn't take money from Ukraine. I shouldn't take money from any government that I'm covering. If I take money from the Ukrainian government, If I take money from the Ukrainian government and then I try to cover the Ukrainian government, then the coverage that I'm going to do, of course, could focus on like valid things about Russian aggression. That's why like state media doesn't never do valid reporting. But that state media is not going to necessarily focus on, say, corruption scandals. It's the same, for example, like I did an article on a Ukrainian deserter from the 155. That's the French unit, you know, the French unit that covers that went over to France, did a bunch of training there. A guy jumped the fence, ran away. I did an interview with him. He talked about stuff in the French unit about some corruption cases that he heard from his buddies. He talked about stuff in the French unit when it had to do with like bad applying of choose XYZ, you know, for the XYZ, choose XYZ for your position. You're a good drone pilot, but you're a driver. So there was like badly assign you. There was problems when it had to do with like no energetic training, you know, just like the problem is like, you know, people line up and shoot a rifle, but there's not like a ton of like endurance training, XYZ. And all these problems led to them fleeing. We cover the problems. That's not something the Ukrainian state media would particularly want to fund, because that is not something that tells people, hey, go join the armed forces. That's the type of stuff that could get people to continue to draft dodge, even if it's the truth. And they want to present a image of the Ukrainian armed forces as a more held together force. And depending on where you are, that can be the case. Depending on other instances, maybe not so much. So no, I would say that getting paid by, if I was paid by the Ukrainian government, that would be a negative. The 503 things are public and they're contributors. I wouldn't look at the FCC filing on stream. Yeah, I don't like the look. Look, it's not. And by the way, I double checked. My specific home address is not actually in it. I'm going to change the title. That's 100% a lie. It is just my zip code and city, actually. I'll change the stream title to FEC filing. Stream my FEC filing. A lot less interesting title. Another nothing burger. Truly another nothing burger. Here's the questions I still have, though. Here are the questions I still have. My first question would be, number one, why am I considered a Zionist streamer? Why am I classified as a Zionist streamer? I don't know why. If I believe that Israel shouldn't be pushed into the ocean, does that make me a Zionist? Or do I have to have specific beliefs of how Israel should exist as a state? Like when it comes to like percentages of demographics of Judaism in the state and like Palestinians. That'd be the first thing I would ask. The second thing I would ask is, what still classifies me as a Destiny orbiter? Is it being in the general vicinity of Destiny? Or is it just knowing people who still talk to Destiny? Is it the fact that I've mentioned Destiny on stream? And the last thing I would ask, and this would be the final thing I would ask, is why are we still trusting Bad Empanada on sources for these types of stories? I don't like Bad Empanada for a bunch of reasons, just like his general behavior and general business ethic. But the idea that Bad Empanada put up here is that Progressive Victory basically became a slush fund for Destiny, his orbiters, in order to pay them off to benefit off of the big push for political content. And I would say, I don't think that's the case. There were people who were working to make content. There were people who were working to actualize people. There were people out there working to try to do stuff at Progressive Victory. They just didn't do necessarily the most tremendous job. That's not to say they didn't do good jobs on some days. They just didn't do good jobs on a lot of other days. For example, the way that they mismanaged the FEC filing. Did they change the FEC filing? Because I remember before, they did post my home address. Progressive Victory did post my home address at some point. Nope, it is the full address. Here it is. 1 second. Okay, so that's why I jolted in the way. We just got this right before stream. He showed my name. He showed the amount I got paid. But you have to actually go to the FEC filing to see my home address. You can see the mailing address has been read out here. So Bad Empanada shows the way to get to my home address. So Hassan didn't show my home address. He just showed a post and information on how people can go check out my home address. Once again, majority of the blame falls on Progressive Victory. I'd say this isn't as bad. Still not great. The 3 zip codes in the US are under 140K people. So zip code is going to be doing some heavy lifting. Well, yeah, the zip code alone is going to be doing some heavy lifting. But I don't really care as much about the zip code. The zip code, to me, doesn't matter as much, which is why I don't care too. Not too angry at Hassan. Because the problem with the zip code is, I've said I live where I live in this city or in this community generally many times. It's just having the exact address out there that I don't like. And the more people that are attracted to it, obviously, the worse it is, because people can use it and abuse it. For now, not really, because the house burnt down, so there's nothing there. But I do plan to move back in there, and I also would like to stay there because my family's had that house for quite a while. And you know, it'd be nice to pass it down, you know, do something with it, stay here in this area. So it's also a house that I'm kind of attached to, which is the real bummer. You know, I was born and raised in the house, and you know, I get to stay there a good amount when I'm back because I want to be near my family. Because you know, 8 months out of the year, I'm in Ukraine, living in an apartment, completely disconnected from my home community. Not everyone else is in the house, and the filing also had their houses burned down, so their addresses being posted. No bueno. I knew this would eventually come up too. This was like an inevitability. I just didn't think that it would be Hassan that would be the one that would bring the most attention to these address filings. Can you blame Danabo just instead for fun? Honestly, if I was to order the blame, if I was to percentile the blame, I don't know if this is generous enough for me, but knowing that Hassan didn't show my full address, he just showed an easy way for people to get to my address, because he just showed the filing that people could go click on and go check it out after PV fucked up. I would blame him actually like 5%. I would blame him very little, because 90% of the blame should end on Progressive Victory, because they weren't the ones that should have filed this way incorrectly. They were the ones who fucked up. I'd even put some of the blame on myself for trusting them with my home address. There were some people there though that, you know, had worked in like professional political outfits before, but the people who did the filings, the lawyers who didn't know what they were doing. So I would honestly put 90% of the blame on PV. Hassan, I just kind of, honestly, I put more blame on Bada Banana than Hassan for like bringing attention to it. It'd be one thing to like just be like, hey, I checked the FEC filing, here's the money, but like, here's the city, here's the zip code, here's how you get to it. Oh, look, the address is in there. Isn't that interesting? Can you take it off the screen? It makes me anxious. There you go. Anyway, why are we still listening to Bad Empanada? Why am I a Zionist? Like, why am I classified? So is it just because I don't want to push Israel into the sea? Why am I still classified as a Destiny Orbiter? And should we really be showing information that leads to streamers' public home addresses, no matter how it got out there? Like, I think, like, because the thing is, all it takes is for somebody around you to mess up. Because it'd be one thing if I tweeted out my home address, then it'd be like, okay, it'd be that. There's nothing I can do. But if somebody around Hassan, who he gave their address to in order to get there to like have a beer or something, like ended up posting their address, and then other people started sharing it around, and you like directed people in that way. And definitely when it's people you don't like. In fact, I'd be less careful with the people I like than the people I don't like, because the people I don't like, I don't want my audience doing something stupid. I'm not particularly worried. Again, this is why I hold very little blame here for Hassan out of the whole situation. Number one, I don't think any fan, most people are going to go from that stream to the FEC filing to go see my home address. Only crazy people will. Now, that's not to say his audience doesn't have any crazy people, especially if you define me as a war tourist. But I also don't think they're crazy people who will ultimately get off their couch. I think that if there are crazy people in his audience that will do that, which I'm sure there are some, that they're ultimately, like, the worst thing that I could experience will probably be some amount of pizza rating. Swatting is the only thing that I have any concern about. But I don't even expect it. I don't know if Hassan community's ever done any swatting or has ever been brought back to Hassan's community. So even like the craziest, the worst of them, I'm not really concerned about it. I think it's probably more of the people around Bad Empanada that would be more of the swatters, because I think as a percentile, his audience is definitely a lot more spiteful on the individual level, or that the address could move outside of their communities to other people, you know? The swatting is probably the thing that would give me the most concern.
curd
But again,
is a
I'm
curd.
not home 8 months out of the year anyway.
What's your most drastic difference between your beliefs and perceptions, Dylan? I believe quite a few things without really wanting them implemented due to the consequences.
Um,
I.e., one state, two state.
what's my biggest? Uh, that's a good question.